In a world where truths are hidden and knowledge is silenced, a text emerges that challenges everything we know. The forbidden Gospel of Mary Magdalene is not just a forgotten manuscript. It is the lost key to spiritual freedom. Imagine knowledge so powerful that it could transform human understanding and their connection with the divine. This gospel, banned by history, presents Mary Magdalene not as a mere spectator, but as a central figure, holder of secrets that can free us from the constraints of everyday life. What is really hidden between its pages? We hear about a path that goes beyond the material, where each of us has the potential to transcend our limitations. Why did the Church oppose this teaching? And what does this reveal about the human search for meaning? As we unravel the mysteries of this text, prepare to rethink your beliefs. This is not just an account of the past. It is an invitation to reflect on the very essence of spirituality. Get ready for a journey that can change your view of the world and yourself. The truth is closer than you think. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene was written in the 2nd century, a period that marked the emergence of different currents of thought within Christianity. During this time, Gnosticism gained strength, proposing a worldview that valued esoteric knowledge and the search for inner truth. Gnostic texts, including the Gospel in question, emerged as responses to a need to explore spirituality in a more direct and personal way, far from the dogmas established by the Church. This search for understanding and spiritual freedom was in tune with the intellectual climate of the time, which sought new ways of understanding the relationship between the human being and the divine. The discovery of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene occurred at the end of the 19th century, when ancient manuscripts were found in a cave in Egypt. These texts, which had been forgotten for centuries, revealed an intriguing perspective on the life and teachings of Jesus, as well as highlighting the importance of Mary Magdalene as a central figure. The rediscovery of this gospel offered new possibilities of interpretation, challenging the traditional view that relegated Mary Magdalene to a secondary role in the Christian narrative. The historical context in which the gospel was written is fundamental to fully understanding it. It reflects a time of intense reflection and debate about the nature of faith and spirituality. Gnosticism, with its ideas of dualism and enlightenment, profoundly influenced the way early Christians viewed the relationship between the body and the soul, between the material and the spiritual. This fertile environment for new ideas allowed voices like Mary Magdalene to emerge, calling for a more intimate and personal approach to spirituality. Furthermore, the struggle between different theological currents of the time also contributed to the formation of Christian thought. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene not only reflects the Gnostic view, but also serves as a testimony to the tensions that existed between orthodox doctrines and more liberal interpretations of Jesus' message. This historical complexity adds a layer of depth to the understanding of the text and the figure of Mary Magdalene. The influence of Gnosticism on the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is revealed in its ideas about knowledge and the search for truth. The proposition that each individual has the right and ability to access divine wisdom through personal experience is a powerful message that resonates to this day. This search for deeper knowledge continues to be a central theme in discussions about contemporary spirituality. Mary Magdalene is presented in the Gospel as an essential disciple, a spiritual leader who plays an active role in transmitting Jesus' teachings. This depiction contrasts sharply with the traditional view, which often portrays her as a mere follower, or in some interpretations as a repentant sinner. In the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she not only receives teachings, but understands them and shares them with other disciples. This new light on her figure reveals a strong woman, capable of defying the social norms of her time. In addition to being a disciple, Mary Magdalene is seen as a bearer of occult knowledge. The Gospel suggests that she had a special understanding of Jesus' message, knowledge that was not available to everyone. This idea that Mary possessed unique wisdom and a deep connection with the divine places her in a prominent position, emphasizing the importance of female voices in the history of Christianity. The text suggests that spirituality should not be monopolized by a single perspective, but rather enriched by the diversity of experiences and interpretations. The spiritual leadership of Mary Magdalene, as described in the Gospel, offers an alternative model to the patriarchal view of religion. Instead of being subservient or passive, she is presented as someone who has the courage to question and seek answers. This characteristic is particularly relevant in a context where women were often silenced. The Gospel, by giving voice to Mary Magdalene, challenges narratives that limit the role of women in spirituality and religious history. Furthermore, the figure of Mary Magdalene in the Gospel suggests that true spiritual understanding goes beyond mere obedience to dogma. It represents the active pursuit of knowledge and truth, a theme that resonates with many people seeking a more authentic connection with the divine. This search for personal understanding is essential, as it allows everyone to find their own spiritual path, without depending exclusively on institutions or authorities. The representation of Mary Magdalene in the Gospel is an invitation to reflect on the role of women in spirituality. By highlighting her importance as a disciple and leader, the text leads us to reconsider historical narratives that have often been shaped by prejudices and limitations. This new vision not only enriches the understanding of the figure of Mary Magdalene, but also opens up space for a broader exploration of feminine spirituality throughout history. In the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the discussion about the soul is central. The text explores the nature of the soul as something that transcends the physical body and material limitations. This view contrasts with the traditional idea that often associates the soul with a restricted state of existence. For Gnostics, the soul is seen as a divine spark, seeking to return to its origin. This search for enlightenment is a recurring theme, indicating that true spiritual fulfillment involves a process of self-knowledge and transformation. Enlightenment, according to the Gospel, is not a state to be achieved only through external practices, but rather an internal journey. Mary Magdalene teaches that true wisdom comes from reflection and connection with the divine that resides within each person. This perspective emphasizes the importance of personal experience in the spiritual quest, suggesting that each individual has the potential to discover their own truth. This idea is powerful because it promotes spiritual autonomy and empowerment. Another important point addressed in the Gospel is the relationship between the soul and human emotions. The text suggests that we are often imprisoned by our earthly passions and desires, which keep us away from our spiritual essence. The search for enlightenment, therefore, involves a process of detachment and transcendence of these limitations. The soul, upon freeing itself from these bonds, can finally access a state of inner peace and harmony with the universe. Furthermore, the Gospel proposes that true enlightenment is accompanied by a deeper understanding of life and the world around us. This understanding goes beyond the intellect, reaching a higher state of consciousness that allows us to perceive the unity between all beings. This vision of interconnection is an invitation to compassion and empathy, highlighting that the spiritual journey is not only individual, but also collective. The concepts of soul and enlightenment presented in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene offer a rich and multifaceted approach to spirituality. They encourage reflection on how each of us can cultivate this inner connection, seeking not only intellectual understanding, but also experiential experience. This journey is unique and personal, opening paths to a more authentic and meaningful spirituality. Throughout history, the figure of Mary Magdalene and the texts surrounding her have faced considerable contempt from religious institutions. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, in particular, was seen as a threat to the traditional view of Christianity. This is because it presents a more inclusive and respectful perspective regarding the role of women in spirituality. Ecclesiastical authorities, concerned with maintaining control over the Christian narrative, decided to suppress these teachings that contradicted their established doctrines. The reasons for this suppression were not just theological, there was also a strong political component. Early Christianity was an ideological battleground, where different groups competed for influence and power. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, by highlighting the importance of a woman as a spiritual leader, challenged the patriarchal structure of the Church. This generated fierce resistance from leaders who feared losing their dominance. Furthermore, The marginalization of Mary Magdalene reflected a desire to maintain the hierarchy and exclusivity of spiritual knowledge. By promoting a vision that emphasized individual autonomy and the search for inner knowledge, the Gospel conflicted with the idea of a clergy who held authority over the interpretation of faith. This struggle for spiritual power ultimately led to the silencing of many voices that sought a deeper and more personal understanding of the divine. The impact of this suppression was significant, not only for the image of Mary Magdalene, but also for the way in which female spirituality has been treated over the centuries. The result was a Christian narrative that often ignored or distorted the role of women, limiting their participation and influence in religion. The traditional view of women in the Church has become the norm, while alternative voices have been erased or relegated to oblivion. The legacy of this repression still resonates today, as many seek to rediscover the role of figures like Mary Magdalene in spirituality. Returning to these ancient texts and reevaluating their messages becomes increasingly relevant as we explore new ways of understanding faith and the female presence in a religious context. The teachings of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene offer an interesting path to spiritual freedom. By emphasizing the importance of self-knowledge, the text suggests that each individual has the ability to connect with the divine in a direct and personal way. This idea is liberating because it challenges dependence on intermediaries, such as religious leaders, who often define the spiritual experience of believers. Here, the message is clear. True enlightenment comes from within, and everyone is responsible for their journey. The search for spiritual freedom implies transcending the limits imposed by social and religious conventions. The Gospel presents the idea that earthly passions and desires can be obstacles to spiritual fulfillment. By knowing themselves better, the individual can begin to identify these limitations and work to overcome them. In this way, spirituality becomes an experience of empowerment, where human beings are invited to look within and discover their true self. Furthermore, the proposal for self-knowledge goes beyond simple personal reflection. It is an invitation to inner transformation. By facing our shadows and confronting our desires, we can make space for a more authentic and meaningful life. This process of self-discovery is not easy, but Mary Magdalene's teachings provide tools that can help on this journey. Through meditation, introspection, and internal dialogue, the individual can find a clearer path to spiritual fulfillment. Another important dimension of these teachings is the idea that spiritual freedom is not a solitary journey. Mary Magdalene, as the central figure of the Gospel, symbolizes the importance of community and mutual support. By sharing experiences and learnings, people can help each other overcome challenges and grow together. This reinforces the idea that everyone is interconnected in their search for self-knowledge and transcendence. The teachings of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene remind us that true spiritual freedom is a personal, but also a collective, achievement. By embracing autonomy and seeking self-knowledge, each of us can contribute to building a more inclusive and enriching spirituality, which values diversity of experiences and perspectives. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene brings to light issues that are extremely relevant to contemporary spirituality. In an increasingly busy world full of information, many people are looking for deeper meaning in their lives. The teachings contained in this Gospel offer a perspective that goes beyond established religious traditions, inviting individuals to explore their own connection with the divine. This search for authenticity and inner truth is something that resonates with many today. One of the central concepts of the Gospel is the idea that each person has the potential to achieve enlightenment. This aligns with the contemporary search for self-knowledge and personal development. Rather than relying on intermediaries or outside authorities, the Gospel suggests that true wisdom lies within each person. This empowering approach is especially appealing at a time when people are increasingly distrustful of traditional institutions and seek to build their own spiritual journeys. Furthermore, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene addresses the nature of the soul and its search for transcendence. This aspect is especially pertinent today, when many feel trapped by material limitations and seek something that elevates them beyond the everyday. The message that the soul is eternal and that life is an opportunity to grow and learn, can be a comfort and motivation for those facing difficulties. This vision provides a sense of purpose and direction, something many people crave in their lives. Another interesting point is the way the Gospel emphasizes the importance of community and mutual support on the spiritual journey. In a world that often promotes competition and individualism, the idea that true understanding comes from dialogue and collaboration is a powerful reminder. This encourages the formation of support groups and networks of people seeking joint growth, something that is reflected in practices such as meditation circles and spiritual study groups. The teachings of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene can serve as a compass for those who feel lost in their search for spirituality. Through understanding Mary's role as a central figure and valuing personal experience, people can be inspired to question, explore, and ultimately find their own path. Thus, this ancient work continues to offer valuable and timeless insights, resonating with the contemporary search for deeper meaning in life. As we reflect on what the Gospel of Mary Magdalene reveals to us, it is impossible not to wonder, what if this lost key really showed us a different path? A path where spirituality is not just a matter of dogmas, but of self-knowledge and liberation? Let us imagine for a moment that each of us carries within ourselves unlimited potential, knowledge that has been hidden for centuries. What would happen if we decided to connect with this force? Mary Magdalene's message invites us to question the reality that has been imposed on us and to seek a truth that resonates deep within our being. So what do you think? Are we ready to challenge convention and explore this promised spiritual freedom? The Forbidden Gospel may not just be ancient history, it can be a guide to personal transformation. And now, how can you apply these teachings to your own life? What fears and limits are you willing to overcome to reach your true essence? Leave your reflections in the comments and let's explore this journey of self-knowledge and liberation together. The search for truth continues, and you are a fundamental part of this story.